Okay, today we're going to teach you how to iron the coat. So the coat, as you can see, looks very, average, kind of fluffy. Honestly, it just looks kind of fuzzy, right? Now, it can be genetics. It can be from using really hard water, not using good products. It can be from a multitude of things. Sometimes as they just get older, their coat changes. Like Maybelline's coat used to be much silkier. Now it's more kinky and fuzzy. So oftentimes in the dog show world, they iron the coat because they want to present the best type of coat for the judges and prospect, other breeders that are watching their dogs in the ring. They want them to look the best. Now, back in the day, Maltese coats used to have kink to it, but then somewhere along the way, breeders started ironing the coats. So in the show world, they often iron the coats, and they do that through a process. So first I have bathed her and I've used conditioner, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how you iron the coat. And it's very important, number one, the coat has completely been dried, okay? And then you're gonna start in different layers. So you're gonna do this in layers, in certain sections. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna turn our iron on. Now, this is just a iron that I picked up at Sally's Beauty Supply, and you don't wanna have it too hot, okay? It doesn't need to be very hot to be able to iron the dog. So you wanna have it at a pretty low setting, and you're gonna do small sections, okay? Now, once the iron is heated up, the first thing you wanna do is section off the coat of where you're gonna start the ironing at. And I'm going to try to adjust this camera so you can have a good angle. So you separate the coat down the middle, okay? And then I'm just going to brush the coat out. This is a Greyhound comb. And we're just gonna make sure that we get all the little remains of any mats or tangles out. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna start on the bottom. So you can actually use a barrette to hold this part of the coat back. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pin the part of the coat back to keep it out of the way, okay? Then we're gonna comb out the part of the coat that we're going to be ironing. And I would say, at the top of the leg is where you start the ironing. I mean, if the coat's long enough, you could iron all the way down to the bottom, but you're gonna start at the top of the leg, and you're just going to place this against the dog so you don't burn the dog. So rest that there. You're gonna mist the coat. I like to use Always Bright Eyes Miracle Mist. And you just mist the coat, like so, and then you just iron it and go over it very quickly. No need to hold it in one place, just go over the coat very quickly. Let the coat cool. Okay, let it cool, and then just comb through it. Now, it'll give the coat a nice clean appearance, a nice even appearance. Again, place this against the dog. Because we don't want to burn the dog. That would break the trust and it would hurt the dog. And then they'll be fearful, and we don't want that. Okay? Now, you can see that it's hard to get right up against the skin, but remember, this part is not going to be showing. This part is going to be underneath the top coat, underneath the top of the coat, so it's okay if it's not perfect. That top coat, you want to make sure that you get it perfectly. We're going to take the next little section here. Comb this back. They typically are more kinky on their rear hindquarters. I don't know why, they just are. Rest the comb there. Mist the coat. Now, some people, you know, if you have the dog in wraps, you might want to just take them out of wraps and do this. If you have already groomed them a couple days before the show, you can just take them out of the wraps and then just do this the same way, just to get the kinks from the wraps out. So you can see it closes the hair follicle, it makes the coat look nice and even and shiny. So you can see it starts building on itself. So by the time you get the whole dog done, the coat will look very even. So let's say you have a dog that kinks a lot more on the rear hindquarters. You obviously want it to look nice and even to the front. So the dog looks nice and even across the whole body, which presents it better in the show ring. If you're having a photo session, which she's having one done today, you just want the coat to lay down very nice against the body, and it looks much better. You know, just like if a woman has really kinky hair and she gets it straightened before a photo shoot and it looks very silky and straight, that's what we're trying to do. Okay, then we move up here. And we're just gonna keep working our way around the dog to do the whole body, okay? Again, we're gonna try to get the dog to stretch out as much as you can. And I'm just gonna move this out of the way. Kind of hard between their front and back legs to get between there, but do the best you can. And just pin the coat back like so. Oh, I forgot to put the comb there. You can use a smaller comb too, if you have one. Like this is a facial comb. You could just put this there to protect them. It's just so you don't touch their skin. That's all. You can see it really starts to get a nice, neat appearance. Now her coat is only equivalent to about a puppy's 6 to 8 months old, but it still makes the coat look really nice. So when their coat's to the floor, you can really tell a big difference. But even puppies, you want the coat to be laying really close to the body and a very clean appearance. Now after you iron them, you want to make sure you use a comb that isn't causing any kind of static. You want to use a very high quality comb so that you don't do all this work and then later on you've got a comb that's getting it all staticky. If the coat, obviously if the coat gets wet, it's going to make it start to get kinky again. So, you know, once it's ironed, don't add too much misting to it because it'll go right back to kinky and you'll be able to tell. When the hair moves, you'll be able to see the waves in the coat. So I'm letting it cool. And I brush through it. Now as the coat grows out, you're gonna wanna trim these ends because just from blow drying, wear and tear, them walking around, you're gonna wanna trim the ends. That also gives it a nice, neat appearance. But today we're just talking about ironing. So I would say this iron is probably, it's by number, but I probably have it on medium heat. You definitely don't want to be, burning the coat, having it too hot, and keep moving. Don't hold it in one place too long. Okay, so that's how you iron the coat, and you just do sections around the dog. Okay, the next area we're gonna do is the rear area. And the biggest thing I can tell you with this is that first you wanna make sure you trim and demat the coat around the base of the tail. So essentially you're gonna wanna trim about 1 inch at the base of the tail because it will help the plume to lay on the top of the back and look really nice. So we're just gonna trim around 1 inch around the base of the tail, okay? And right below the anus, we're gonna trim a little bit of that hair so they don't get any little dingleberries there, okay? Now, when we get this all ironed up nice, you'll see the plume, the tail plume will lay really nicely over the back. And I trim the front of the tail here, about 1 inch. Now, you could use clippers for this too, but I prefer to use scissors. Okay. If they've got any mats here, you need to get them out. So the coat will lay really nice and flat, because the more it lays flat across their rump, the better it's gonna look, right? And once I get all this brushed out, then I will go back in and do the ironing. So you can see I cleaned up the base of the tail. And in a minute, I'm gonna show you how to iron this backside. Okay, next we're gonna work on ironing the backside. This is a leash that I have on her hips so that she stands up, so that ideally we can, be able to groom her properly, okay? Because they get tired and they wanna sit down, and obviously you can't iron the backside when they're sitting on it. So what I do is I try to keep the tail out of the way, obviously. Then I'm going to section the hair the same way we did before. And try to keep this tail hair and things out of the way, right? So we can pin that aside and then take a section over here and begin ironing it. Now you're gonna wanna iron, the backs of the legs down here and things like that. You can always go back in and trim it. After you get it ironed is the best time to trim it, because when you iron it, you see how it's going to show you what needs to be trimmed. I should have her on the plain black table. It's not as comfortable, but it's easier to trim the coat. Let's see if I can move this camera down so you guys can see it better. Okay, so I'm gonna work on ironing her face now. So the biggest thing I can tell you is that she actually has a partially collapsed trachea, so I'm not gonna put the noose on her neck. But what you can do is you can put them, I'm gonna show you a grooming pillow that you can put them in. We're gonna let her lay down and I'm gonna use my grooming pillow, which lets her rest her head. Okay, so I'm gonna put this underneath her head and then I'm gonna show you how I groom her face, okay? So the biggest thing is the ears sometimes can be kind of kinky. And so what you wanna do is take it in sections behind the ears first and iron that section. And then as you work your way around, you kind of do the top of the ears, then underneath the ears. Careful not to burn their ear. And the last thing I do is their sides of their face and under their chin. So I go right up to the ear leather. Kind of tricky when they're moving around, but just do the best you can. If you can have them in a noose, that's actually better. A leash. Okay, and you're gonna do this top section on top of their ear. This is an area that you're gonna backcomb for fullness above the ear, and you're gonna backcomb it like this. So you wanna make sure there's no mats there. I'm gonna do the sides of her face. I kind of like to push it forward as I'm to kind of tell the hair which way to go. So we want it to be kind of in a plume. So instead of ironing this straight down, we want this facial hair to kind of curl under. So I kind of lift up on like this. So when you straighten the facial finishings, it really makes a big difference. Make sure you pay close attention to where the ear is. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. Then I'm going to do her beard. So the beard typically grows back towards their neck, obviously. I want it to come a little bit forward. So when I iron it, I'm going to kind of pull the beard forward like so. I'm going to tell the beard hair where I want it to go. Sorry. I'm going to tell it to go a certain way. Now obviously you don't want to let them drink water after this, because then you'll be ruining the work that you're putting in. Now you can trim around the mouth if you want, but we want to make sure that we get all the facial hair going in one direction so that it looks nice and clean and polished. Even the end of their hair right here can look a little raggedy from growing it out. So you want to make sure that you iron that as well. It really makes a big difference in the appearance. See how nice that looks? See if I can get her to turn this way. See? So then the facial hair looks nice and even, doesn't look all dried out and kinky on the ends. And that, my friends, is how you iron a Maltese's coat. you're ironing the top knot, obviously you do the top knot here. And that's about it. If you're gonna do the chest, you know, you wanna have the dog up off the table, put him in a noose, in a leash, and then section it off and iron the front as well. You want the dog looking really nice all the way around, because as they move across the floor, their coat moves with them, and you want to make sure all this is nice and straight. She doesn't have much wave at all in her front of her coat, so I'm just doing the ends. On the back, when I was using the comb against her skin, it's because she has a lot of kinks towards the bottom of her coat by the skin. So obviously you can't get those when you don't want to burn the dog when you're trying to get those kinks out. Okay? Thanks for watching.